Have audio. Yes, we have audio now. Now we are recording. Okay, so we're looking at world history. This is lesson 1, the age of revolution. What I want you to do is I want you to just go along, and you'll be pausing this over and over again to take notes. You'll be pausing to take notes. You'll be pausing to read. You'll be pausing for lots of reasons. So you can watch this whenever you want, pick up on it, stop it, do whatever you want, rewind. Just understand that it's recorded, so it's very, very flexible for you. Okay. First and foremost, however, you need to do all of your assignments that are in your assignment list. Okay. So let's start with the age of revolution. Let's start going over our terms. Let's first start with our ACT work. Make sure you do that. You have at least 5 ACT words each week. Make sure that is done. That's on your assignment list. But tell me, as your first bell work, tell me what you like or dislike about history. Take about 5 minutes, write a paragraph in your bell work section, or just simply get a sheet out and name it bell work, and tell me what you like or dislike about history. 1 paragraph. Okay, remember, we learn history to not only learn about the past, but it helps us with our future, because if we can learn from the past, hopefully we can make the future a much better place. Okay, our first unit, the age of revolution. This is the age when we started deciding who we wanted to lead us instead of being led by kings. The age of revolution. This is a main idea. Now, you need to know this. It says main idea on that screen. That means you need to write it down. That means you need to put it in your notes, and basically it's going to be on your test. So understand that. The age of revolution, the period from 1750 to 1850 that saw a number of revolutions occur in many parts of Europe and the Americas. You need to know this, so write it down. Pause and write it down. Okay, you're going to be watching video 1 in just a minute, the age of revolutions. I want you to watch that, but understand these two points here. They're main ideas as well. The age of revolution was a shift in the form of governments from absolute monarchies, that means kings, chosen because they were the king and they were perceived to be better and holy, to constitutional states and republics. So we go from having kings that were thrust upon us to having leaders that we choose, just like our current United States of America. The second part is that the European nations, like England and France, they would lose their colonies. They would be dramatically weakened by the loss of colonies and their resources. And a perfect example is the 13 colonies that would become our present United States of America. Watch video 1, Age of Revolutions. Okay, the basics of the age of revolution. This is a main idea. You need to write this down. The 2 driving forces behind the age of revolution is A, the citizens' desire to be self-governed. We want to govern ourselves as opposed to having a king govern us. And secondly, the citizens' demand for individual liberties. That's individual rights, like the right to bear arms, the right to free speech, the right to a free press. So the 2 basics of the age of revolution, desire to be self-governed, and citizens' demand for individual liberties. First assignment after the ACT word will be the vocabulary terms. They are in your assignment list. Fully define all of the Unit 1 vocabulary terms and use in a sentence. Pause and do that. Or you can do it later. That's up to you. As long as they're turned in on time. Okay, let's go to our bell work. I want you to go to page 136. Give me a full definition of the term laissez-faire. I want you to tell me what country it originates from, tell me who came up with the phrase, what the phrase means, and tell me what very, very famous book is based on this. You can also use your internet if you can't find every bit of it. Laissez-faire. Put it in your bell work section of your notebook or any sheet of paper, as long as you turn it in to me. Okay, we're looking at some of the philosophers, some of the people who started to change the way we think about being governed, about our leaders. The Siege of Change began with philosophers and their founding of the belief of individual rights and liberties. Okay, there's four guys here I want you to look at. Number one, John Locke. He was an English philosopher, and he believed that mind was a blank slate, that kings were not better than us. We were all born with the same blank slate, and that knowledge would come from experience. Watch The Essential John Locke, video number 2. John Locke believed in three main things that we have adopted, or two main things. That government derives its power from the people, meaning power comes from the people. And secondly, we are in charge and we have the right to overthrow our government if our government is not doing its job for us. Locke's ideas heavily influenced the U.S. form of government. We copied quite a bit of it for the present United States Constitution. Our next man was Montesquieu. Okay, he was a French lawyer, and here's another thing that the Americans copied. He believed in separation of powers, not a king, but separate branches of government that kind of counterbalanced each other. Three branches of government that Montesquieu believed in were executive, judicial, and legislative branches, which of course we currently have in the United States of America. Three branches of government. When you think of Montesquieu, think of the separation of powers. Watch video 3, Montesquieu. Montesquieu, once again, that main idea, separation of powers. It says main idea, probably will be on your test. You need to know it. You need to know it. Okay, finally, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I hope I pronounced that properly. He had something called The Social Contract. It was a book, a very famous book, that said that kings are not empowered by God to rule. Now, this is radical thinking because kings ruled us back in this time, especially in Europe. It said that kings were in charge, but his book said no, that we are in power, that the power comes from the people and not from God saying that kings were in charge. Watch video number 5, Rousseau, The Social Contract. Okay. Also read the excerpt on the social contract, page 137. It's page 137. It's 3 paragraphs. Okay, make sure you're doing your assignments. Again, you must turn in all your assignments to receive credit. You don't have to do them now, but if you choose to, you can. If you'd like, you can go ahead and choose to do assignments 2, 3, and 4. Just make sure all of your assignments are completed on time and turned in. Okay, back to our bell work. I want you to go to your bell work section, and I want you to tell me what is different, what the difference is between separation of powers and a monarchy, meaning a king. You tell me which one is better, and tell me who developed the principle of separation of powers. We just talked about him. And expand on his philosophy. Page 135. Page 135. Okay, we're looking at some of the leaders who actually physically brought it about in terms of independence and revolutions. First one I want you to look at is Simon Bolivar. Okay, you're going to watch a video on him in a second. He helped Latin America gain independence from Spain. What he wanted was democracy. Very similar, he wanted it for South America, very similar to the USA in terms of how we gained independence from Great Britain. Watch video 6, Simon Bolivar. Also in Latin America and the Western Hemisphere, the Toussaint Louverture, I hope I pronounced that correctly. He was the leader of the Haitian Revolution, okay? And I want you to watch the video on him. He shook the foundation of slavery in the New World, a very, very famous man. Watch video number 7. And then we have a man we are all familiar with is Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson basically copied a lot of the ideas of the early philosophers in writing the Declaration of Independence and the United States Constitution. Thomas Jefferson is a very controversial man. He's third president of the United States. He believed in separation of church and state. That's the freedom of religion. And he was also a huge believer in states' rights. I want you to watch video number 7. That's a short biography on Thomas Jefferson. In summary, these philosophers, these men, like Thomas Jefferson, John Locke, Rousseau, Simon Bolivar, they greatly influenced our world by advocating self-government and personal liberty, personal rights. I hope you're pausing. I hope you're getting all this down. Take your time through this. This is designed for you to pause at any time or pick up where you left off. If you have to stop and pick up later, that's fine. Your next bell work. Tell me about the Declaration of Independence. We mentioned it yesterday. Tell me when it was written, who wrote it, and how the Declaration of Independence impacts your life today. Page 146. Okay, we're looking at some of the documents like the Declaration of Independence today. We're going to look at documents such as the Magna Carta and see how major of a role they played in the Age of Revolution. So let's take a look at these. The Magna Carta, this was the one that started it all. It was in 1215, 800 years ago, and it was in England. The land barons, very rich men, they actually forced the King of England to sign this, and it put limits of authority on the king while guaranteeing basic rights for citizens. Thomas Jefferson would use this very heavily when he wrote the U.S. Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Watch video 8, the Magna Carta. Video 8. The main idea I want you to get from the Magna Carta, it was the one that started it all. It was known as the foundation of freedom. You see the main idea logo. Understand Magna Carta, foundation of freedom. 400 years later, we had the English Bill of Rights, which kind of expanded on the Magna Carta. It laid out certain basic rights for all men, including freedom of speech, but also no taxation without representation. Nobody could be taxed in England without Parliament, the elected representatives, approving of it. There's a short summary, video 9. Watch video 9, the English Bill of Rights. And then also the French Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen. It happened in England, happened in France. This is in 1789 after the French Revolution, and it was a guarantee of rights, of basic rights for French people. Life, liberty, property, security. Thomas Jefferson heavily influenced it, and it also guaranteed freedom of speech. Watch video 10, French Declaration of the Rights of Man and Citizen, making sure you're getting all this in your notes. Now, we're talking about all these overseas documents. What type of document do we have in America that is similar to these? And to be perfectly honest, they're kind of a copy of these other documents. Of course, it's the Declaration of Independence. It was written by Thomas Jefferson in 1776, and it basically said that we were being treated very poorly by King George III. I want you to watch this video on the Declaration of Independence. It basically says we're upset, we're tired, and we're breaking loose. It's kind of funny. Okay, if you watch no other video, I want you to watch the reading of the Declaration of Independence. It's either 12 or 13, and it is the most potent words in American history. The Declaration of Independence, it's read by Morgan Freeman and several famous Hollywood actors. Pause, or make sure you pause here and watch that video. Okay, now we're going to be looking at another country who supposedly said the statement, "Let them eat cake." It's one of the most famous sayings ever. Tell me when it was said, and tell me what became of this person. Use your phones to look up who said the statement, "Let them eat cake." Pause here. Okay, here's what happened to that person. Her name was Marie Antoinette. Was not a good ending for her. Watch this video number 13, Affair of the Necklace. Okay, we're looking at the French Revolution today. The French, very, very similar in many ways to the American Revolution. I want you to watch video 15, the French Revolution. Watch video 15. Look at the similarities. Both the American Revolution and the French Revolution, the French were trying to change everything, okay? Just unhappiness with being mistreated, the common man, okay? The flashpoint of the French Revolution, you need to know this, the flashpoint of the French Revolution, the main battle was the storming of the Bastille. And it's where the people basically took over a large building filled with gunpowder and all types of weapons. And it was a symbol of the abuses and heavy taxation of the French government. Basically, the people rose up and took over. The storming of the Bastille, the fall of it, was the flashpoint of the French Revolution. You need to know that. Watch that video. Video 14, I believe. Okay, the two main takeaways from the French Revolution is understand, and from the age of the revolutions, is the power of the people and also the power of the press in terms of spreading the word. By having the freedom of the press, they're very, very powerful in order to spread the word of what's happening in the world and about social injustices. You need to know that main idea. Okay, the American French Revolution showed us that people are demanding self-government, and not only do we demand self-government, we demand basic human rights as well. More classwork. Make sure you're doing your classroom assignments. They must be turned in on time. If you haven't done them yet, I would go ahead and do assignment 6B and 7. Make sure you do all your assignments. Okay, bell work once again. Who was Napoleon Bonaparte? Do this in your bell work section. Who was Napoleon? What country did he lead? What became of him? And how did he die? Give me a paragraph or so in your bell work section. Okay, Napoleon, a very, very famous leader, had a lot of paintings done of him. He was a very pompous person and one of the most famous world leaders of all time. He was a French military and political leader. He had he did some good things for the French people, but he also was known as a warmonger who just went too far. Watch this video, all you need to know about Napoleon Bonaparte. As you can see, Napoleon was considered one of the greatest commanders in history. He had conquered most of Europe, but he basically went too far. He went too far in Russia. Even though he captured Moscow, he basically went too far, and basically his army just overextended itself and froze to death. Later on, he was defeated by the British at Waterloo. So Napoleon basically just overdid it. As you can see here in this map, he really overextended himself. Imagine all the supplies having to come from France all the way to the middle portion of Russia. He basically just bit off more than he can chew, and it essentially defeated him. Read The Fall of Napoleon. It's 8 paragraphs, and it's on page 168. Napoleon was buried. He's still in France. His tomb is in a museum. Again, he was very, very pompous. He was admired by Adolf Hitler. And when Adolf Hitler actually conquered France, he went to Napoleon's tomb and stared at it for over an hour. What is ironic is that Adolf Hitler would make a whole lot of the same mistakes that Napoleon did. He actually did not learn from Napoleon's mistakes at all. Okay, finally, as we get ready to close this unit, the revolutions of 1848, they began in post-Napoleon France, and they spread to over 50 countries. It spread like a virus. Freedom, once people saw the freedom of other nations, they wanted it as well. Workers demanded better conditions. There was class warfare. There were there's too many rich people or not, too few rich people and way too many poor people. And the poor people demanded not only equality, but they wanted more wealth. They also wanted greater democracy. So the revolutions of 1848. Okay. So now let's go to our study guide. Make sure you do the study guide. Do the very, very best you can on this one, okay? Again, everything should be in your notes. I put main idea down. Do the very, very best you can on the study guide, and then proceed from there to your test. Take your time, do it right. Please take your time and do this right. And if you have any questions, you're always welcome to email me. Make sure you turn everything in, all your assignments, as well as you send me your test, your notes, everything. Send it to me at efflers@rcschools.net or through Kidem. I thank you.